The sun had barely risen over the Yoruba kingdom when the council convened in the great hall. The hall, adorned with intricate carvings and vibrant tapestries, buzzed with the anxious murmurs of elders and nobles. At the head of the table sat King Adewale, his youthful face marked with a mixture of determination and irritation. He had been king for just a month, and the weight of the crown already pressed heavily on his brow. His father, the venerable King Oluwole, had recently abdicated due to his failing health. Oluwole's once imposing frame had grown frail, his voice weak, but still imbued with the authority of decades of rule. The former king sat beside his son, his eyes sharp as ever. "Adewale," Oluwole began, his voice echoing in the hushed hall.
You must
find a queen within 6 months. The kingdom needs stability, and a strong alliance with another tribe through marriage will secure our future. Adewale sighed inwardly. He had expected this, but the timeline seemed both daunting and unnecessary. Father, I understand the importance, but 6 months is a short time. Oluwole's eyes softened slightly.
I know, my son.
But the kingdom needs a steady hand, and you need a partner who will support you. News has already spread. Princesses from across Africa will soon arrive. Choose wisely. The council murmured their agreement, and Adewale nodded, though his mind was already wandering. He knew he had to comply, but the thought of parading potential queens like livestock irked him. As the meeting concluded, Adewale left the hall, his mind troubled but resolute. He had always been confident, even arrogant, in his abilities, but this task seemed different, more personal and more complicated. The news of King Adewale's search for a queen spread like wildfire across the continent. In the vast grasslands of Kenya, the Maasai prepared their princess with elaborate adornments. In the savannas of Nigeria, the Hausa and Igbo tribes readied their finest daughters. Farther south, the Zulu adorned their princess with intricate beadwork, each tribe eager to form a powerful alliance with the Yoruba. In the dense forests of Ghana, the Akan tribe received the news with mixed emotions. Princess Efua, renowned for her beauty and strong will, was particularly displeased. She had no desire to be paraded as a potential bride, let alone to a king she had never met. Efua, this is a significant opportunity, her father, King Kofi, reasoned. A union with the Yoruba will strengthen our position. Efua, her striking features set in a determined scowl, shook her head. Father, I do not wish to be married off like a prized cow. I want to choose my own path. King Kofi sighed. I understand, but sometimes we must do what is best for our people. Later, in the privacy of her chambers, Efua devised a plan. She called for her loyal maid, Adwoa, a girl of similar age and build but far less spirited. Adwoa, Efua began, her voice low. I need your help. We will switch places. You will go as Princess Efua, and I will accompany you as your maid. Adwoa's eyes widened. But Princess, that could be dangerous. What if we are discovered? Efua smiled mischievously.
That's the fun of it,
Adwoa. Besides, it will give me a chance to observe this King Adewale without him knowing who I really am. Preparations for the journey to Yoruba land were swift. Efua and Adwoa donned each other's garments, Adwoa struggling to carry herself with the regal air of a princess, while Efua embraced the simplicity of a maid's attire. The switch was surprisingly smooth, their similar features and the deference given to royalty by others aiding in the deception. Their caravan set off at dawn, winding through lush forests and over rolling hills. Efua, riding in a modest carriage, felt a strange sense of freedom. She was no longer burdened by the expectations of a princess. Instead, she could observe and learn. Upon arriving in the Yoruba capital, they were greeted with fanfare. The streets were lined with curious onlookers, and the palace gates opened to reveal a grand reception. King Adewale, dressed in regal robes, stood at the forefront, his posture exuding confidence and authority. As the Akan entourage approached, Adwoa, posing as Efua, stepped forward with practiced grace, her eyes downcast as a proper princess should. Efua, trailing behind with the other servants, couldn't help but smirk at the irony. King Adewale, with his keen eyes, noticed the maid immediately. She was striking, even in her simple attire, her beauty and air of defiance setting her apart from the other servants. He dismissed the thought, focusing instead on the parade of princesses. The days that followed were a whirlwind of introductions and formalities. Each princess was given an audience with King Adewale, showcasing their talents and virtues. The palace was alive with activity, the air thick with competition and the whispers of court intrigue. Efua, in her role as a maid, moved through the palace with ease, observing the other princesses and the dynamics at play. She quickly grew bored of their simpering manners and rehearsed pleasantries. They seemed more interested in the crown than in the man who wore it. King Adewale, on the other hand, found himself increasingly irritated by the process. The princesses, though beautiful and well-mannered, all seemed to blur together in a haze of predictability. His mind kept wandering to the outspoken maid who seemed unimpressed by the grandeur around her. One afternoon, as he strolled through the palace gardens, he found her alone, tending to a bed of vibrant flowers. She looked up as he approached, her eyes meeting his without a hint of deference. "Your Majesty," she said, her tone respectful but her expression challenging. "Adwoa, isn't it?" he asked, though he knew the answer. You seem to enjoy the gardens. Efua nodded, hiding her amusement at his curiosity. They remind me of home. Adewale frowned slightly. And where is home for you, Adwoa?
Ghana,
Your Majesty.
The Akan tribe.
The Akan tribe. He studied her for a moment, intrigued by her boldness. You speak freely for a maid. Efua shrugged.
I've never been good
at holding my tongue. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of another princess, who called out to Adewale in a sing-song voice. He sighed inwardly, turning to face the interruption, but his thoughts lingered on the enigmatic maid. The interactions between Adewale and Efua became more frequent, each encounter charged with a mix of irritation and intrigue. Efua's wit and lack of subservience set her apart, making her both a source of frustration and fascination for the young king. One morning, Adewale found Efua in the library, a place she often retreated to escape the tiresome duties imposed on her as a maid. She was absorbed in a book, her brow furrowed in concentration. You read? Adewale asked, genuinely surprised. Efua looked up, arching an eyebrow.
Is that so shocking,
Your Majesty? He smiled wryly.
Not shocking,
just unexpected. What are you reading? She closed the book, showing him the cover.
It's a collection of
Akan folktales. Tell me one, he said, settling into a chair opposite her. Efua hesitated, then began to recite a story of a cunning fox and a foolish crow, her voice animated and expressive. Adewale listened, captivated not just by the tale but by the way she told it. When she finished, he found himself wanting more. Another? He said. But Efua shook her head.
I have work to do,
Your Majesty. Adewale watched her leave, a small smile playing on his lips. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, and he found himself looking forward to their next encounter. Days turned into weeks, and the competition among the princesses grew fiercer. Yet, despite their best efforts, Adewale's attention often drifted to the outspoken maid. He found himself seeking her out, drawn to her spirit and intelligence. Efua, for her part, found it increasingly difficult to maintain her disguise. Her feelings for Adewale were growing, and the deception weighed heavily on her. She had come to respect him, seeing beyond his arrogance to the man beneath. One evening, during a grand feast, Efua stood at the edge of the hall, watching the festivities. Adewale, surrounded by admirers, caught her eye and excused himself from the throng. He approached her, his expression thoughtful. "Adwoa," he said softly, "why do you stay here, when you clearly do not fit in with the other servants?" Efua's heart pounded. "I go where I am needed, Your Majesty." Adewale frowned, sensing there was more to her story. "There is something different about you, something regal." Efua's breath caught, but before she could respond, a loud crash drew their attention. One of the princesses had tripped, spilling wine and drawing laughter from the crowd. The moment of tension between Efua and Adewale was broken, and Efua quickly excused herself to help clean up the mess. Adewale watched her go, frustration and curiosity gnawing at him. He was determined to uncover the truth about the mysterious maid who had captured his interest. A few days later, Adewale found himself wandering through the palace gardens again, hoping to clear his mind. To his surprise, he stumbled upon Efua, humming a tune in her native Akan language as she tended to the flowers. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, and it stirred something deep within him. "That song," he said, startling her. "Where did you learn it?" Efua turned to face him, her heart racing. "It's a traditional Akan song, Your Majesty. My mother used to sing it to me." Adewale studied her closely, his suspicion growing. "You speak Akan fluently, and you carry yourself with such grace. Are you sure you're just a maid?" Efua met his gaze, her mind racing for an explanation. I was well educated, Your Majesty. My family valued knowledge." Adewale nodded slowly, though he was not entirely convinced. "Very well. But know this, Adwoa. I will uncover your secrets." As he walked away, Efua's heart sank. She knew it was only a matter of time before her true identity was revealed. She had to find a way to tell Adewale the truth without jeopardizing everything. The palace was abuzz with excitement as preparations for the grand ball reached their climax. The event was intended to give Adewale a final opportunity to choose his queen, and every princess in attendance was determined to make a lasting impression. Efua, still in her maid's attire, watched from the sidelines as the grand hall was transformed into a shimmering spectacle of light and color. She felt a pang of regret. She had come to care deeply for Adewale, and the thought of losing him to one of the other princesses was almost unbearable. As the evening unfolded, Adewale danced with each princess in turn, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept searching the crowd for a glimpse of Efua, unable to shake the feeling that she was the one he truly wanted by his side. Finally, he spotted her, standing near the entrance with a tray of drinks. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Adewale made a decision. He strode purposefully toward her, ignoring the startled looks of the guests. "Adwoa," he said, taking her hand and leading her onto the dance floor. "Dance with me." Efua's heart raced as they moved together, the world around them fading into a blur. She knew this was her last chance to tell him the truth, but before she could speak, a voice cut through the music.
"Stop this at once."
"Stop this at once." The hall fell silent as a princess from the Hausa tribe, her face twisted with jealousy, stepped forward.
This is an outrage. How dare you dance with a mere servant, Your Majesty?
Adewale's eyes blazed with anger. "She is more than just a servant. She is a fraud."
She is a fraud.
The princess interrupted, pointing a trembling finger at Efua. "She is not who she claims to be. She is Princess Efua of the Akan tribe, masquerading as a maid." Gasps echoed through the hall, and Efua felt her world crumbling around her. Adewale's expression shifted from anger to shock, then to a cold, unreadable mask. "Is this true?" he asked quietly, his voice trembling with emotion. Efua nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yes, it is true. I am Princess Efua. I switched places with my maid because I wanted to see the real you, not the king you show to the world." Adewale's jaw clenched. "You deceived me." "I had no choice," Efua pleaded. "I needed to know if you were the kind of man I could love." Adewale turned away, his heart torn. "Leave. I cannot trust you." With that, he walked away, leaving Efua standing alone in the center of the ballroom, the weight of her deception crashing down upon her. The days that followed were filled with turmoil and uncertainty. Efua, now stripped of her disguise, prepared to leave Yoruba land in disgrace. She knew her actions had been reckless, but she had not anticipated the depth of her feelings for Adewale. King Kofi, having learned of the switch, arrived at the palace, his face grim. "Efua, you have brought shame upon our tribe, but I will not see you humiliated further." Adewale, still reeling from the revelation, met with King Kofi in private. "Your daughter deceived me. How can I trust her?" King Kofi sighed. "She acted out of love and fear, not malice. Efua is strong-willed and independent, qualities that would make her a great queen if you can find it in your heart to forgive her." Adewale was silent, his thoughts a tumult of anger, hurt, and an undeniable longing for Efua. He knew he had to make a decision soon. As Efua prepared to depart, she wandered through the palace gardens one last time. Memories of her time as Adwoa flooded her mind, each moment with Adewale etched in her heart. Adewale, too, was deep in reflection. He could not deny the connection he felt with Efua, despite the deception. Her strength, intelligence, and spirit had captivated him from the start. He realized that he had been arrogant and dismissive, judging her without truly understanding her. That night, as he lay in his chambers, Adewale made a decision. He would not let pride and anger dictate his future. He would follow his heart. The following morning, as Efua and her entourage prepared to leave, a commotion erupted at the palace gates. Adewale, flanked by his guards, approached with determination. "Stop!" he called out, his voice commanding attention. "Princess Efua, I have made a mistake." Efua turned, her heart pounding. "Adewale!" He stepped forward, his eyes filled with sincerity. "Efua, I have been a fool. I judged you without understanding your reasons. You have shown me what it means to be truly courageous and honest. I cannot imagine ruling without you by my side." Tears filled Efua's eyes as she stepped toward him. "Do you truly mean that, Adewale?" He nodded, taking her hands in his. "Yes, Efua. I want you as my queen, not because of your title, but because of the person you are." A murmur of approval rose from the gathered crowd, and King Kofi stepped forward, his expression softened. "It seems my daughter has chosen well after all." The palace was transformed once more, this time for a celebration of love and unity. The wedding of King Adewale and Princess Efua was a grand affair, bringing together the Yoruba and Akan tribes in a joyous celebration. The ceremony was held in the palace courtyard, decorated with vibrant flowers and traditional symbols from both cultures. Efua, dressed in a stunning gown adorned with Akan and Yoruba motifs, walked down the aisle with her father by her side. Adewale stood at the altar, his heart swelling with pride and love as he watched her approach. When they finally stood together, hand in hand, they knew they were ready to face whatever challenges the future held. As they exchanged vows, promising to support and cherish one another, the crowd erupted in cheers. The celebration continued late into the night, with music, dancing, and feasting. In the months that followed, Efua and Adewale settled into their roles as king and queen, their partnership strengthening the bond between their tribes. They ruled with compassion and wisdom, drawing on their shared experiences and mutual respect. Efua's intelligence and insight brought a new perspective to the court, while Adewale's leadership and determination ensured stability and prosperity for their people. Together, they navigated the complexities of governance, always striving to make their kingdom a better place for all. Their love grew deeper with each passing day, their bond unbreakable. They faced challenges and triumphs together, always leaning on each other for support and guidance. Years later, as they stood on the balcony of their palace, looking out over the thriving kingdom they had built together, Efua and Adewale reflected on their journey. They had faced deception, betrayal, and heartache, but through it all, their love had endured. Adewale wrapped his arm around Efua, pulling her close. "We have come a long way, haven't we?" Efua smiled, leaning into him. Yes, we have. And I wouldn't change a thing." As they watched the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the land, they knew that their love story was one for the ages, a tale of courage, forgiveness, and the power of true love. And so, the hidden princess of Akan and the young Yoruba king ruled together, their hearts forever entwined, their legacy a testament to the strength and beauty of love.